Mike Tyson really believes homeless people are hunted by the rich, lays out theory to Joe Rogan. I always think about this, right? How there's this rise of comedians to like this celebrity hood that the media of a media personality, right? And I can't find the video, but I'm almost certain it was Robin Williams. And I'd watched it on YouTube, so this is probably why I can't find it anymore, because YouTube is censoring like everything, right? I mean, if it's something that was true that was said, YouTube is like it's scrubbing all of it away, right? So basically all you're gonna be able to watch on YouTube is a 43-year-old puff cake, designing cupcakes with unicorns and rainbows on it. Like that's what you go there for. So, but I think it was Robin Williams that said in the future, and I think he was replying to someone asking, why do people trust comedians more than they trust the media when it comes to news? And he told him that in the future that comedians would report the news, and that the news would be where you would go for jokes. If you watch some of these guys that cover the news, and make it their daily thing and weekly thing, I mean, they just use simple common sense to point out the flaws in what's been reported by the media, to point out the narratives and who's funding these speakers on your major news networks. So they're following these agendas. So when I see Joe Rogan, and his popularity more for reporting stuff and talking to people that the establishment media won't talk to, I see it as the shift, but it's a guided shift. Because if Robin Williams, and if that was who said it, if he knew it, then he knows, then it's like all these other comedians know this is the plan for them. And then you wonder, does that give rise to someone like a real life Joker being able to start off as a comedian, reporting the news, get fed up with the way things are, or show that he's fed up with the way things are, as a facade, and has a following group that then will do anything he says. See what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna play the video because I don't need any more strikes and stuff like that here. So boxing legend sits down with UFC commentator Rogan for over 3 hours on Friday to discuss a number of topics, one of which has continued debates online. Iron Mike, let's see. Oh. Let's see. Hold on for a moment, just one moment. Let's see. Iron Mike speculated that a number of the world's elite have probably kidnapped kidnapped vagrants to choose them on a private land for fun. Of course, the pair were smoking a huge amount of weed during this conversation. Okay. What does that got to do with anything, right? Because normally when people smoke, it opens up conversations, right, about stuff that people will hold their tongue on, right, in a lot of areas. I'll never forget this one guy I used to work with back when I was in South Carolina. When he would smoke, all he would talk about And this was wild, and I was uncomfortable because I didn't, because I was raised ultra conservative, you know. At the time I still had, you know, uh, I still had reverence for Christianity. I was young, 16, 17, that's all I knew. I was starting to question stuff, but it wasn't there yet. But all he wanted to talk about was two things. And I laughed because all he wanted to talk about was God, and he wanted to talk about Indians. And, here's this pasty white kid from, Milwaukee, and that's all he wanted to talk about when he smoked. And I was like, well, what does Indians got to do with me? I didn't know. I was like, this is uncomfortable. I mean, we're talking about people that, from the history I was given, are oppressed, and man, yeah, it's bad. They can't do anything on their own land and all this other stuff, and God, I was, watch what you say. So, I the whole part about them smoking weed, and as I'm like, because he was totally different. He was different when he wasn't smoking. He was quiet, didn't say much, just worked, and that was it. So Tyson said, whatever you think of a human did to another human being, it happened. Whatever it is, it happened. Rogan quickly replied, somewhere in history, which Tyson declared. Hold on. What is that? I know I'm saying that word wrong.
Declare.
Yeah. And sometimes these special camps and stuff, it's happened. These people grow these thousands of acres and nothing grows on them, right? Weird ranches where people do rituals, and as Rogan theorized, to keep the theory going. Might want to hurt an MFer. Tyson clapped back. This is what happens. They take these homeless people off the streets, put them in there, take them to one of these special hospitals. Then they take them from the hospital all drugged up, take them to these large estate properties. Let's hunt, run. Tyson thinks hunters are attempting to push boundaries and brought up foxes. Fox is the only one that backtracks. The 55-year-old added that the only challenge, that's the only challenging chase. Everything else is too easy. So now they say, well, the fox is the most reasonable animal. Let's try a human animal to see how reasonable he is. The baddest man on the planet also touched on his shocking 2000 comeback. Yeah. I don't care about the stuff with Holyfield. So I just thought that was interesting because, I mean, it's been bothering me when you look around. Well, first, you look around and you see homelessness is going up. You see during COVID, the upward transfer of all this wealth that was given to the rich, making them even richer, proclaiming that no other time in history has wealth gone to the rich in such a short period of time than what happened during the last 2 years. And with all this wealth that you see they have now and already had, and then you turn around and you see all the spending that's going to European countries by Congress, 66 million and counting that they're giving to these places in Europe, it's like, where was all that wealth all this time? I mean, how much wealth is Congress and the Treasury sitting on that out of nowhere they can give that, but yet you allow all this homelessness? And your answer is always just raise the taxes. And as I did a video the other day, only Mississippi is the only state that is attempting to take care of the homeless. Mississippi is the only one that's stepping up to the plate. I mean, look how Florida can brag about all it has and everything it makes from tourism and all that stuff, and nothing really to help the homeless people. New York City, with all that wealth it has there, you have homeless. California, I mean, they're talking about, a small fraction of what they just sent to Europe could solve the homelessness problem in this country. So they're intentionally not helping the homeless. And yeah, they'll make an issue of it when they can figure out how to flip housing homeless people into a way to benefit real estate agents and elite people with money to become even, to become even more wealthy as landlords. Because I've seen the Ponzi scheme in was it Seattle, where they're housing homeless people in skyscrapers. But when you get down to the roots of it, it's not that they're doing this to help the homeless people. It's the money that they now can cipher from the city of Seattle to these wealthy people who own the building, which just makes them even wealthier because Seattle's paying for it, which in return then the people are paying for it that pay their taxes. And I gotta find the video because I'm not explaining it well, but it was like, when I seen that, I understood what was going on when they did this, and I'm like, that's not helping them. That's not helping them at all, And like I said before in the other video, you got to think about it. You just got that weird feeling, that when the time comes to leave here, I bet you the homeless people will lead the charge. And you just think about, will that leader come from a child that grew up in this homelessness, grew up in this poverty while watching all this wealth? Yeah, you just think about it, because it's almost like the stories they try to show you in Hollywood. So, as I showed you, Mike Tyson believes homeless people are being kidnapped for hunt by rich people for sport. Here we have.
Might want to hunt a mother, Mike continued, with Joe accepting that the thought was not outside the realm of possibility. I guarantee you there's been someone, somewhere in the world, who paid someone to hunt a person, the New Jersey native expressed. I guarantee you that's happened. The remark induced Mike to assert, this is what happens. They take these homeless people off the streets. Put them in there, take them to one of those special hospitals. Then, they take them from the hospital, all drugged up, take them to these large estates, property, let's hunt, run.
These were my notes.
They saw the heads of hunted men in Zaroff's trophy room. The most dangerous game. Strange and terrible is the story of Zaroff, fascinating fiend. WHO hunted men like animals for the sporting thrill. With Joel McRae, Fay Ray, Leslie Banks, Robert Armstrong. RKO radio picture. Werkilia, Keys Van Corlar. Kathy O'Brien described this in her book Transformation of America. She describes various incidents WHI are summarized in this article. A Most Dangerous Game, Human Hunting, 37. It is done as training for the children to reinforce programming that there is nowhere to hide for the sadistic pleasure of the hunters. Bohemian Grove, CA. Teddy Bear's Picnic Child Rape Hunt Party.
And this I found.
This is art from Alexandra Walishevska showing naked child hunts and children wearing the red shoes made of human skin. (1986), Paul van den Boeynants, left, and Baron de Bonvoisin, right, the two pillars of fascist subversion in Belgium in the 1970s and 1980s. Both have been accused of child abuse, torture and murder. The driver and confidant of van den Boeynants, who also stands accused, stated that he understood that Nihal was the right hand of de Bonvoisin, PV. X1 and X2 mentioned de Bonvoisin as one of the most sadistic abusers in the network. 217. One of his sisters married Count Hervé Dursel, 218, who has been accused by X1 of involvement in the snuff and ritual abuse network. 219. His other sister is married to the earlier mentioned Bernard de Merode, an intelligence-connected family which has been accused of child abuse and Satanism by X4 and Natalie W. 220. X2 mentioned having been at a meeting organized by her pimp, at which de Merode, Dursel and de Bonvoisin families were all present, together with the Prince and Princess of Chimay. 221. According to X2, hunts on children were organized in the woods of Château de Chimay. 222.